if Wizards is going for the Sacred Chaos, what do you think will happen to the meta once Sacred Chaos aren't safe anymore and they keep printing fire design cards?
I would really not hope it, because I think a lot of these cards are what differentiates Legacy quite a bit from Modern. That make for a much better gameplay experience. That is not too much about who has the better threat. Therefore, I couldn't see it.
How high do you think is the chance that Entomb gets banned? Simple, 1 to 100%.
Welcome to In Response, a Legacy podcast. Whether you're a dedicated player or just curious about Legacy, join us as we share ideas, discuss decks, and have some fun along the way.
So guys, you know what is happening after Eternal Weekend?
Eternal Weekend.
Eternal Weekend! So we're talking about Eternal Weekend today. And we are, a little bit of anticipation right now because Daniel and myself are traveling to Lucca in Italy. And we're so stoked and so hyped for this event. But to be honest, there's a little bit of a sad face because we can't really test right now. Peter, why can't we test right now? I mean, it should be obvious. We're one month away from, a little bit over 1 month away from Eternal Weekend. And we should be in preparation. We should be deep into the meta. But we can't.
Yeah, most of you guys already know there is BNR upcoming in, I think, 2 weeks.
When this episode airs, about 1 week or something like that.
Now is on the 10th of November.
Yeah, so right around the corner. And yeah, this is now really a phase where everyone kind of expects something to happen or some kind of explanation why it won't. But I would say 95% are expecting something to happen, some form of a shakeup. And so, you can't really test anything because you don't know what you're playing against in Eternal Weekend.
My argument for that something is likely to happen is because they shifted the date that was originally, I think, 3 days before the Eternal Weekend.
Yeah.
Back to the 10th of November, which is at least 2 weeks. I think it's of course a little bit better, but I doubt that the reason behind this shift was standard only.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That the reason was they told us it was because of standard reasons.
Exactly. And I think nothing really is happening in that time. From what I know, maybe I'm wrong, but
I kind of can jump into it because there is something happening in standard. It's a horrendous season in the RCQ circuit because everyone knows that something from Blue-Red, Vivi, and Cauldron will get banned. I think it's 100% Vivi nowadays. But they don't ban anything because they said, you can play the whole RCQ circuits and now they have 5 people RCQs or something like that in America. So it's really, really horrendous. So it makes sense to shift it for standard. But as you both said, it's...
Is there some tournament that is actually impacted if they shift it for these 2 weeks?
Mostly the RCQ circuit, I think.
Is that really in the time frame?
No, I think the BNR is right after the RCQ circuits now ends and not 2 weeks after to evaluate.
So after that, there's nothing really. So it wouldn't matter if it's on the 10th or the original date.
It impacts the next RCQ circuit, but I think they want to refurbish the standard format as soon as possible.
I get it. And it's a fair argument, but I think a little bit more, I think for that alone, I kind of had the feeling that they wouldn't have changed it. I think they also had maybe a little bit the Eternal Weekend in mind, which they didn't state publicly, but given that they could now properly address it if they might not need to, or then they don't need because they're collecting data right now. And the one Eternal Weekend is now in the books and they can work with that data. But one reason to actually have a look at the format is probably also the reason why they shifted it. now. So let's say, to bring it back to the point, there's a high chance that there's something coming. And as you said, it's difficult to prepare for that scenario.
Yeah, and speaking of scenarios, we are facing a plethora of scenarios right now, because at first, I mean, what we all don't hope what is going to happen is no changes, probably.
I don't mind it personally, to be honest, but I could see it in the thinking of what most of the community members want. Yeah, I can stand behind that, and most people want to have some changes. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think no changes is like the most unlikely scenario at this point. But yeah, with no changes coming, we have a few things that will change up for the next Eternal Weekend, but nothing really. I mean, we talked about in the last episode, we expect some decks to show up a little bit less and other decks to show up a little bit more. As we said, like Blue-Black Temple, mostly the outliner on the downswing. But other than that, I think we can expect some similar scenario in regards of meta distribution at Eternal Weekend in Luca.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, what do you think about the fact that a lot of people are pretty, quote-unquote, sick of Reanimator, of Mystic Forge, of the format, and it's, yeah, about the health of the format. There are really people out there who are saying, I won't play until something out of Reanimator gets banned.
Exactly. There are quite some few that are fed up with that. That is now the third ban iteration or ban talk. We had Grief, we had Psychic Fog, and we had Troll of Khazad-dûm. And still the deck is at the top. And I can see that. And I think it just impacts the player numbers overall. I think there's still great showing in Eternal Weekend Luca. In North America, actually. Sorry. That was happening. A lot of players were actually also coming from Europe there.
Yeah, some of them were, yeah.
So, but I think it would be even more if something changes. I have the feeling.
Yeah,
probably. Peter, do you think that Wizards of the Coast really cares about Legacy and the players?
I think Legacy is a little bit of a lost child. It's on the one hand they want us to let us think that they care, but it seems like they don't give that much attention actually to Legacy, and I think it shows in regards of the last BNR with the article about Upsul spells, for example, that they kind of listen but not listen too much. And I think it comes really to expectation from the player base to the organizer of the format. It's kind of hard because like when the data doesn't really show any outlier, but it's mostly community outcry that they aren't really satisfied with the product. It comes to a shift in the managing of the format, because when data doesn't really support any action, but the people don't want to play it, it's not really that good of a broad product.
Yeah.
If I may add to that, I also would, however, think that to a certain extent I can see why they're doing it like that, because you also have to balance a little bit the let's say the voice of the people that don't like something is much higher than people like the real scenario would look like. And I would also be hesitant to make changes based on a number of small people, a couple of, I don't know, outspoken, prominent persons or anybody that can put something into the internet and that lets Wizards collect opinions. It's, I guess, a small number for the actual player base, right? So I'm also a little bit actually pro that they should not act too fast on this kind of shoutings.
Yeah, but that's kind of is like the point that it is a long time since the community has its outcry. I mean, it's not the first thing that they really said, hey, hit the devil in the head and remove the deck from the top tier tables. And they tried and they tried and they tried again. and it didn't really work. So maybe they have to do something more. Because like if you think about it, if the deck would have had a few cards more in it that were much stronger, how the deck actually would feel. I mean, can you think about like getting turn 1 griefed, getting stripped of your removal, your counter spell, and then your opponent drops a Tamiyo, and then the next turn reanimates his grief again. And I mean, those are scenarios if they wouldn't hit something. So they listened back in the days, or the data supported it, but the people are kind of frustrated with it. But yeah,
that data is one point, as you said. Yeah, feeling is another point for sure. And I think at some point it kind of boils down to, we have a little bit of two philosophies, or let's say two things that is happening when with the cards that are not really helping at the moment, because they have this philosophy they don't want to touch these
sacred
cards, exactly, the format staples. But on the other hand, they print proactive, strong threats all the time, like Psychic Frog, like Tamiyo, that are perfect for decks like this for a plan B, right?
Yeah.
So this is like, either you stop printing such cards, because we have to get rid of any new Frog, any new Tamiyo all the time with that combination, or you get rid of Entomb, the enabler. And if they stick to both, I guess we come back to that point on half a year.
Yes, so now we get to go to the first topic of the day, is the possibility of an Entomb ban. That would be the nuclear option, in my opinion, just to nuke the deck out of the format, ban Entomb.
Yeah.
Like you said, Daniel, that would be the enabler.
Yes.
What do you think, Peter? What will happen if we ban Entomb?
It will be kind of hard to evaluate, actually. Because if you just remove Reanimator from the spectrum, I mean, you lose like around 15% of the meta that is playing a Griffith-centric strategy. I would expect like Griffith to drop down through the field. Maybe we get an increase because of that in regards of Cephalid Breakfast, because like it's the other kinda-ish tempo graveyard strategy that we have. We will for sure have an influx in blue-black tempo and even blue-red kata players. I think those will kind of support the spectrum of the tempo player, mostly in paper, more towards blue-black tempo because of the overlap in reserved list cards. Maybe we get some into Esperish kind of style decks, but I don't expect it, because like it's a tempo combo deck, and you don't really pivot too far out of the playstyle that you previously had. So I mostly expect them to tip their toes into like blue-black tempo, blue-red kata if available, Cephalid Breakfast maybe, or maybe even Doomsday.
Doomsday, okay, interesting.
Because of like the overlap with reserved list cards and stuff like that.
I would add to that I would say one of the strongest decks at the moment, which is Mystic Forge, which is untouched at the moment. It's a proactive deck as well, and I think it is super strong even in the face of Demon Tempo, which might be I guess a lot of players would migrate towards tempo, blue-black tempo, as you said. And that leads to kind of a suppression a little bit of, is it kata? Because kata is very bad against Baraglyph decks. And that leaves room still for Mystic Forge. So I think that dynamic is difficult. Demon Tempo has to have a really solid plan against Mystic Forge. Null Rods, I don't know, Void Mirrors, whatever. They have to really put something into their deck. Maybe also Harbingers. I don't know. Now not really existing in the sideboards anymore, but I don't know if it's feasible. Or of course Consigned Memory. Yes, as we have it also. And Kata with tempo still being strong, I would think it's difficult to pilot. If we just have Entomb ban. That's my fear. And then we have the Nado decks maybe in the mix as well.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Sure.
But this, I think, all is hard to evaluate.
Yeah, because it's just a nuke into to one deck. I mean, you kind of have like hard overlap that you can kind of tangle around or have to some expectations in paper, but online it would just flow around.
Probably, yeah.
And I mean, on Blue Black Reanimator, you have a few players that only play it because it's like the best deck.
And I would still think, even though maybe the strengths to discuss, but I think at least online paper is like not so much. But if people start to decrease graveyard hate, of course I would watch out for a little bit of oops again, just because the natural decline in graveyard hate, which I think gives room for oops to perform better.
Yeah, and say Philipp breakfast as well.
Yeah, breakfast, but breakfast struggles a lot with the mana. Breakfast is usually a deck that not is super suitable for the broad audience.
Yeah.
It's super on thin margins, I would say. But Nado midrange maybe is a good option as well, yes.
It's probably a pretty strong deck right now. But just one closing question right now for the Entomb scenario that we have. If Wizards is going for the Sacred Cows, what do you think will happen to the meta? Because once Sacred Cows aren't safe anymore and they keep printing fire design cards, what do you think, Daniel? Could lead or what would the meta look like in Legacy?
Like, I would not view it in that way that if they ban Entomb now, that basically everything is not safe anymore. I could see a philosophy where they say, okay, now they had like 4 ban iterations now with this particular deck. They take this enabler as it's just too universal, but still stick to the theory that in Sacred Cows are Sacred Cows, like make an exception, if you may. And other than that, but of course, if you say hypothetically, okay, everything can be open for banning, I would really not hope it, because I think a lot of these cards are what differentiates Legacy quite a bit from Modern these days. These kind of protection cards and enabler cards that make, in my opinion, for a much better gameplay experience that is not too much about who has the better threat all the time, which I think Modern is more or less. I'm not super up to date, so forgive me if that is completely wrong, but I have the impression that is the case. And Modern is anyways getting closer and closer to Legacy, but I think this big chunk of sacred cards is what still differentiates the two. Therefore, I couldn't see it, because nobody wants another Modern format. I think we
that's true.
already have that.
How high do you think is the chance that Entomb gets banned? Simple, 1 to 100%.
It's a hard question. Do you mean only Entomb?
Only Entomb. Now the scenario is only Entomb banned.
5%.
Okay. Daniel?
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Awesome. Now we go over to the next scenario that is, okay, it's Tamiyo gets the X. Solely Tamiyo. That will probably, for me, I think it sounds awesome. So, Peter, do you have any counter arguments why this ban wouldn't be the savior of the format?
No comment.
Because
I don't think we have any counter argument. Tamiyo is just the single best thing that you can do on turn 1 besides winning the game. Tamiyo is an incredible card advantage engine. It's a win condition on its own. It's everything that the Threat Shaman believes it could have been as the turn 1 play.
Fired.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about back in the days, Death Shaman was like the turn 1 planeswalker, the CMC 1 planeswalker that can win you the game, and it sometimes did. But like Tamiyo is like on steroids. I mean, it does some different forms of advantages besides Death Red, but it's incredibly what this card can do.
I would agree, shots fired.
I think it pull one out for a boy, Death Red Shaman.
A little bit. I would I personally would put the Shaman still 1 or 2 tiers above Tamiyo, actually. That's my opinion. But yeah, it plays in the same ballpark, let's say, yeah. I mean, Ragavan was in the format and was banned for a good reason. So 1-drop setups generating value, and if left unchecked, wins you the game pretty much through card advantage for something is all the time an issue. And Tamiyo fits that exactly, yeah.
Yeah, Tamiyo has also the upside that it doesn't really die to removal like Ragavan or Death Shaman did. So, I mean, there's the possibility to just cast a brainstorm in response to the removals. So
that is usually the best kind of opening turn 1 Tamiyo.
Yeah.
Turn 2 brainstorm, flip it. I mean, I actually had it like very rarely that people put a removal spell which I get to fizzle because of my brainstorm. Well, funnily enough, it for me at least doesn't happen too much.
Because you, as an opponent, you fear it so much that
Yeah.
the brainstorm. So you just let your opponent get like a clue every single turn, but you don't use your bolt to push your swords. It's so bad as an experience as an opponent.
I think a certain cards that were printed in Legacy, or let's say the dynamic of certain cards, leads you to play differently patterned nowadays. Like, play a lot more sorcery speed, right? In the face of Bowmaster, in the face of Tamiyo flipping and stuff like this, you want to cast your brainstorm when there is no chance of Bowmastering, for example. Or also the removal spell of Tamiyo. Do it when they don't have mana, right?
Yeah.
For example.
You try to do it. But when you do it turn 1, they have the days, so it's kind of...
you have to untap and then play the land. So
if you have to play your remove spells into a Tamiyo, even if they have days, you have to do it, because
true.
Every single turn after that, the days is even worse and they have to brainstorm and it's kind of hard. So the play pattern with Tamiyo lead to some kind of unique games, and sometimes it's really, really interesting. But as an opponent, you always feel behind.
What if you get dazed, they replay the land, brainstorm, and then you daze them? For example. I guess it's just a little bit of...
That's still not
That's really cool in the middle.
You still have the Tamiyo
yes, I know.
on board, so you're still losing.
You would, of course, daze the daze, yeah.
Okay, daze. Okay, that's fine, yeah.
Fair.
So, we can all agree Tamiyo would be Tamiyo ban would be a net positive for the format?
Yeah, likely. Probably.
Agreed?
That would for sure change a lot, I would say.
What would be the changes, Daniel?
Yeah. So, of course, Reanimator, I think, as it is now, there might be a version that is playable, but for sure, I would say it drops quite a bit. And then also tempo gets affected quite a bit. I don't think it exists as of this version, or let's say it needs to be for a very specific meta. I don't know. I think there's not good chances for tempo without Tamiyo. A lot of other decks are running here as well, right? There's a Cheskai Wizards deck. I think without Tamiyo, also not really playable. The same is for Breakfast will change, Nado will change. And the one thing that is unaffected, that is for sure the winner, is still Mystic Verge that we mentioned before. It's the biggest winner for me. And that drags along, I think, Kata. Is it Kata? Because it plays a little bit, or let's say has a good chance against Mystic Forge. And therefore I see those two decks as very good candidates.
Speaking of Kata, Peter, I don't think you have played Cutter.
I goldfished it.
Okay, so that doesn't count. No, Peter, you're the only one out of us three who has actually played with the card.
Yeah,
of course, Steel Cutter. What can you say about Blue-Red Delta? Or Blue-Red Cutter in this sense? Yeah.
I mean, Cutter is a really, really unique card, because like most of the time, if you have those effects, like Young Pyromancer back in the days, you can play as many spells as you want in each turn. And with Cutter, you are kind of always in a trade-off, because sometimes you can play more than 2, 3, 4 or more than 2 spells, or even 3 or 4. But you don't really have to do it or want to do it, because you need your spells on the next turn again to trigger again the cutter, because you only get 1 token each turn. And then in the finishing turn, mostly you have to be in the right place to not overextend, because in 1 turn you can get a lot of prowess tokens on prowess triggers out of your tokens. But yeah, it's sometimes a trade-off. So it's not really the easiest cards to play around, especially on turn 2, because often you see it being played on turn 2, protected by a daze, but it's not really that big of a value, because with the daze you already played your second spell this turn, so you aren't allowed to trigger your cutter on your second turn, so you have to wait on your third turn. Then you need again 2 spells. But usually the first spell to trigger the first token is the cutter, if you play it right around specific counter spells. So it's a really unique card. It has a good high ceiling, but yeah, I think that a few players are kind of having to get to know the card when they start playing with it.
And I also get the feeling that Tamiyo and to like you said, Daniel, to a lot of extent also Barrogoyf is keeping cutter in check.
Yeah, Tamiyo is not frequently running cutter. You can maybe put 1 or 2 copies in the deck, but it's not seeking. It has not had the mana and the time to crack the clues, to capitalize on the clues themselves. So yeah, Tamiyo, yeah, it's not super great for cutter itself, because it's just more value.
Yeah, and opposing Tamiyos can be kind of bad for you because of the plus ability. You are a go wide tech to some extent, so the plus ability has some great value against you. And Barrogoyf is like the card, okay, I need to have a 1-off Unholy Heat and hope that it dies. You have the artifacts in the deck to support your opposing values with Mishra's Baubles, etc. So it's kind of hard sometimes to play around Barrogoyfs.
It's actually, I would say, the really play style, and also how to utilize the cards as close as possible as a real tempo, because Dima tempo, for example, is often called tempo. Is actually, I would say, a mid-range deck.
More or less.
It trades a 1-to-1 and then has some value cards, and then wants to go ahead. But with Kata, you trade resources unfavorably sometimes, but you want to be ahead in speed and close the game before Barrogoyf comes down or gets in for 1 hit or something like that. And Kata helps because it's super good against spot removal.
Yeah,
specifically.
Yeah, it's Kata is the thing that kind of the Delbo decks back in the days needed.
Yeah,
especially with Young Pyromancer. It was like the cards that allowed you to play favorable against 1-on-1 removal spells.
Exactly.
Because previously you traded a Swords of Plowshares against the first Delver. You traded in another remove spell for the next creature, and then you are searching for your creatures, basically.
Yeah.
And now if they remove the first token from Kata on the next turn, you usually get the next token.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good against, as I said, the prismatic endings. It's not really a prismatic ending, it's spot removal, Kata push. Yeah. Exactly. So it's kind of, really, really good in that regard.
Daniel, you're okay. Go ahead.
Don't forget to trigger on your opponent's turn. It's something that a lot of people forget.
And it triggers off creatures.
Yeah.
So Daniel, what do you think is the chance that Tamiyo gets the X?
Yeah, I would say the most probable chance, actually, besides no chance, no changes. I think it's for me it's 50-50 between no changes or just Tamiyo Ben somehow. I think those 2 options are I can't decide which is. So I think both are. It's very probable, above 50%. I cannot tell, maybe 70%, something like that, or let's put it 50% because I'll put it on the same area as no changes. So I think if something happened, this is kind of the thing that will happen.
You could also put 40-40 and leave the rest 20% for
if you want,
maybe the next topic.
If you want to run it up with numbers, yes. Sure.
Peter, your prediction?
I want to have like 25 or 20% for what? No changes left. So I have like 25. No, a little bit more. 35, 40%. 35.
I'm about in the same boat. I think also about 40% for the Tamiyo ban, which would also be my preferred ban that we can see before Eternal Weekend. And the next big scenario would be a whole plethora of changes. A real, nuke-the-format ban, like.
Ban old dual lands, old fetch lands.
Something like that. I mean, who doesn't love a fetchless format? No. But Daniel, if we do a carpet ban, what would be your picks? And what do you think would the meta look like?
I don't think that Carpet of Flowers will get bans, but
carpet like ban, across multiple cards.
I was thinking the same, yeah.
Islands is unbanned.
Okay, carpet ban. Yeah, let's start with Tamiyo. Makes sense. Then I like the version of Tamiyo, Entomb. Probably the One Ring and Nado. Those.
Ooh, wow, shots fired. Wow. Okay.
Those I think to really resets everything a little bit. But I would not be sure what if there is a clear winner. Probably Oops. And then Ben Oops, of course. But other than that, I think those 4 cards maybe. And see what happens. This would be like if you do something, I think you cannot stop before if you go with Tamiyo and Entomb Ring. You have to
hit Nado, that's true.
Include Nado as well, I think, kind of. And the other way around, of course, if you just stop with the One Ring or something.
With Entomb?
With Entomb, we had the scenario discussion before, right? So, of course, there's also a possibility. But if you make more than one card, you can do both 4, I think.
I mean, I agree, especially on the first 3. On Nado, I'm always a little bit unsure, but the play pattern seems really hard sometimes to interact.
Yeah.
And if you remove like the best 3 things from the format, you maybe have to take the next outlier. Because like, I think under Nado, we don't really have anything that is really, really bad in the format.
You mean bad in the sense the good, you mean?
In the sense of the good. Nothing really comes to mind that is really hard to interact or really hard to remove. Because the One Ring you can't really remove besides of like Nullrod. And you still get most of the time some value out of it.
I guess the best answer is Consign. Or One Ring, but
Consign, but it's something that can be dropped really early and gets you ahead in some spots where you don't really should be allowed to get ahead. Tamiyo and Entomb we really talked about, and Nado is like so hard to interact. You really have to interact on a stack with it. But most of the time, it's a cavern deck. I mean, the mana gets worse. I get it. But it still allows you to put your opponent in bad spots. And I mean, I'm all up for putting your opponent in bad spots. But those are way too consistently bad, I think. But I don't think that we need any more changes in the format.
Probably, I can agree with you. But different to you, Peter, I would make a change to the One Ring because
like an errata, you mean?
No,
you only can play one because the One Ring.
Not like that. But I mean,
win
in the with the cards that you've chosen. So I think instead of the One Ring, it's either Kozilek's Command or hot take here, Planar Nexus.
I think it's not an hot take. I can see that, yes. It's very adding to a lot of the mana burst and consistency the deck has gotten. Works with any other lands, basically they have. Planar Nexus is a very, very good and strong card. I think it's worth considering for sure. Why would you, if I just may ask this small counter. Why Kozilek's command?
Because it does basically everything. Scry 40, pick the best card.
I mean, the Kozilek's command is just the flex piece on the deck. It does everything you want. It covers graveyard. It sets you up. It ramps you up in the next turn, and it's a remove spell.
It's a removal spell also,
and something remove spell. Besides Dismember, I think there is non-colorless.
Yeah. Spatial contortion.
Spatial contortion and Eldrazi Confluence. But besides those, it's Eldrazi Confluence nowadays a staple, yeah?
Yeah, less so consistently, but Mystic Forge doesn't play it.
Mystic Forge. Yeah. But one thing I wanted to ask, is Mystic Forge nowadays playing Planar Nexus? Because
yeah. Because it works with the Tron lands and it works with the post.
Mystic Forge is playing post lands? No. Only Utsa's
but it plays it works with both and
Tower.
Yeah.
Utsa's Tower, and there is the
Utsa's Workshop.
Okay. I think it's not. Is it Utsa's? The Metalcraft land.
Yeah, it's Utsa's Workshop.
Is it Utsa's? Okay.
Because like Mishra's Workshop is the one from.
Yeah. Planar Nexus is a staple in any of the stacks.
Okay.
Automatic for. Also, usually the best target for Wasteland.
Yeah. And I think the Mystic Forge decks have really gotten good once they had a good mana base.
I mean, yes, I agree. And they had this last year as well.
Yeah.
This is what they... But the Kozilek's command was also part of that.
That's true. That's why it's hard to pin down. Is it Planar Nexus or is it Kozilek's command?
I mean, and back in the day, they also had Vexing Bobble.
Which is true, yeah.
Was 2024 won by Planar Nexus in because I'm unsure. I thought like 4 Ancient Tombs, 4 City of Traitors, like 2024 Eternal Weekend.
I think so, yeah.
I'm also pretty sure that they played at least for Planar Nexus for Utsa's Tower because of the...
I think the version at least came when we had this Sowing Mycospawn version of Cloud Post. I remember that this Ursa's Tower Planar Nexus combo, I saw it first in Cloud Post, where they went away from Primeval Titan to the Eldrazi. And I think this was already way before.
Yeah.
And when was Mycospawn banned? In March?
And then it was the same as Frog and Bobble. Frog, Bobble, Mycospawn.
After that. Also in January or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Nowadays, I think Mystic Forge is a big thing. And I could agree with Kozilek's command is because they have meaningful interaction, specifically in the main deck now against, for example, Reanimator. With the Graveyard Hate they can handle, and the removal spells if they need it. So they have some kind of interaction. It's not just, it plays the advantage of having much more mana than the average other opponent, and then they can use and cheat on that and play big creatures. And usually this would come with a cost that they play specific cards that are not really interactive, but Kozilek's command can fit that gap. With that, I could see why you would look at the command as a potential ban here.
Yeah. Kozilek's command is a really flexible thing. I kind of agree that it should be put on a watch list, but I think in this spot you kind of have to put the generic card advantage engine in the One Ring. It's the thing currently in Mystic Forge that plays through the whole deck.
Yeah, that's true.
Just untap the One Ring over and over again. It's really strong. On the other hand, we see it in various Cloud Post strategies. In how's it called, in
Mystic Forge?
No, in the red one.
In red
Bumpy, it's like a card that allows various decks that usually don't have any card advantage to have card advantage. And maybe skimp on that and let's try to focus on the right thing for each archetype.
Yeah, that's true. So, now we go up over to now before we hop over to the next topic, how big do you think is the probability of this happening? The big changes, the carpet ban.
Below 1%.
Peter?
If I count correctly, I had like 35% for the solely Tamiyo, 5% for the solely Entomb, I think. So we are at 40. I think I want to put like no changes at around 25%, even though it hurts. So we have 65, so 35%, same as Tamiyo, actually. I think Legacy is overdue, and I think they're recognizing it now. So big overhaul.
Big overhaul. Sounds great. But talking about a big overhaul, which decks dodge everything? Which decks are safe? Oops, so spells. Yeah, finally. Oops, spells from this one. I think if they're doing a big carpet ban, I can see they are probably hitting oops also.
Yeah. Next one.
It would be the next one on the line. But yeah, just exclude oops right now.
Yeah.
Which decks do you think, guys, would be safe? Which decks should we invest our money right now?
Yeah, Easy Cutter, I think, is the one that comes to mind.
100%.
It's the second most played deck at the moment, actually. And even though there is Tamiyo and everything, and it plays none of the cards, and it's proactive. It's a tempo deck. Usually, a Delver is usually when a meta game resets. Delver is somewhere at the top, and this is let's see what I would put my money on.
Yeah, as with oops back when the bannings came out for this iteration of the format, you want to play something really proactive. You don't want to play any reactive strategies. Even though with a lot of those bans, we can maybe feel the control spirit coming back a little bit into Legacy, but just let the format shake up after Eternal Weekends, know how the format will look, and then try to scold your control decks to put the meta back in its place. But yeah, play something proactive, play as a cutter. You have some various tools that you can scout the meta in the first week and a half. You can decide on your 15 sideboard slots or on the 1, 2, 3 flex slots that you have in the main deck. What you really want to basically put your money in. So yeah, it's a cutter.
So we already covered a little bit of gameplay, and also Daniel, you covered why the deck is so strong, and especially in the most likely event that Tamiyo gets banned, it's probably the best thing to do. So just tell us, what should we look out for when we build this deck?
So right now there is 2 versions, not really 2, but you can tweak it a little bit. And right now, from what I think we saw coming from Eternal Weekend North America, is one version that was piloted by Roland Cheng. He opted for a more proactive, aggressive version with Delaware Secrets. It is not an auto-include usually. And right now, the deck should focus on really having efficient 1-drops. And it actually cut down to 3 copies of Cutter, not 4. Just because Demon Tempo was actually on a low size, right? This is Cutter is very good against this kind of decks. Demon Tempo, not combo decks, not control decks is not really existing. But any combo deck, Mystic Forge, Stompy, Reanimator, and stuff like this, there you don't need Cutter really. You need it against interactive decks like Demon Tempo and permission-based decks, and also control decks a little bit, where you have this 1-to-1 trade removal game. But against combo, you just want to deploy things fast and attack.
Yeah, one thing I want to chime in with Cutter is like, usually it feels like with Young Pyromancers, you have 2 out there. It's really, really good because you get like 2 tokens out of each spell. But Cutter, the deployment of Cutter can sometimes feel a little bit complicated, I want to say. You don't really want to overcommit sometimes, especially it's unusual to see like Wrath of the Skies, for example. But the second one doesn't really feel that great. So cutting down to 3 copies is actually really good because, like, as Daniel, I think, told us like 15 times on the podcast already, if you want to draw a card once, you play it 3 times. If you want to draw it multiple times, you play it 4 times. So three copies of Score Steel Cutter is like the correct thing, because you don't want to have it on turn 1, turn 2. You usually want it more or less on turn 3 sometimes. Very rarely on turn 2 when you're going to go really, really fast. But yeah, if you want it on turn 3, you play 1 or 2 cantrips before that. And then turn 3, you have it pretty much guaranteed. It's a blue deck here.
Yeah, that's true. And why is, not why is it good, but are there things to look out for when you're building it regarding the meta that we expect in the future?
Yeah, well, in the future, I would go for more like clear, nothing specific. In the future, in the sense of, for example, Tamiyo ban.
Yeah.
I would build it similar as now. Right now, they address a Reanimator in the main deck a little bit, and I would just remove that part, because without Tamiyo, I wouldn't expect Reanimator too much, and have more universal cards, more like Chain Lightnings that just go for the face, for example. And yeah, and then, play more universally good cards. Your Forces, your Days clear, some Preordains, some Mishra's Bubble to work with against any opponent, basically, and with your deck naturally without any extra cards. And then have a well-rounded sideboard card as a very good plan against Mystic Forge for sure. Like 3-4 copies of Consign, Parablasts, Hydroblasts, and Price of Progress. I also like against Mystic Forge. That should cover what I would build my deck as a first idea, let's say.
Yeah. I completely agree on you. Just want something proactive. You don't want to have really any reactive cards. And as I said, like the few flex slots that you want to change on, I would say is dependent on the meta on the week before Internal Weekend. And then you can choose like 1 or 2 cards in there. Because I think on sideboard, I would like say 11 to 12 cards are pretty much locked. And on the main deck, maybe 58.
Yeah. Speaking about the main deck, which deck list should if I wanted to play Cutter, which deck list should I focus on or orientate myself with?
I like the new version that with Delvers at the moment, I have to say. I also like currently, as of now, I also like we don't see too much, but there's some versions that play Noxious Revival at this point. It's a cool tech, actually.
Why Noxious Revival? To draw more Wastelands against Mystic Forge, or?
You can, if you want. But the main idea is it's great rotate in the main deck against Reanimator, and it adds a little bit of a cherry on top if you actually put the Reanimation creature on top of the deck, which is a pseudo Time Walk, and can also work as that in a later turn when you, let's say, need 1 more attack step to finish your opponent. You can use it to put a bad card on top of your opponent's deck. And yeah, it triggers Cutter.
I never thought about putting things from your opponent on top of their deck. So it's just like, Noxious Revival on myself. What is in my graveyard?
It's also good, right? If you need a Force of Will, if you need maybe another Cutter, if you need a Murktide.
I mean, it can give you another Brainstorm. It's really versatile. It's kind of like the Mystic Sanctuary. Sometimes we want to play, but it's just so slow because it usually activates only on turn 4+. So yeah, it's really flexible, and as Daniel already laid out, if you can hinder with your opponent, it's really good, especially on a tempo strategy where it usually comes down to the last turn if blue-red can win the game, or it was pretty much back in the days. Nowadays with kata sometimes you can overwhelm, but yeah, if you can hinder your opponent on the last top deck and they draw a good old polluted delta and we're good to go, it seems nice.
Okay, guys, sounds great. I think you guys are set up for the bannings that will happen on the 10th of November. So we will have a ban discussion as our next episode scheduled. So therefore, hop into our next episode.